Okay, first I just want to let everybody know that we are going to be recording this event today. We have some people that are very interested in this topic and are asking us to record it for them so they can watch it at a later time. So all of that, just to get started, I would love to introduce myself and let you know who I am and tell you a little bit about myself, and then introduce you a little bit more to MBC and the services that we offer, and in particular talk a lot about home birth practices, and I know many people are interested in the co-op talk. So I'm going to first tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Deidre DeGrado, and I am a certified professional midwife, and I am working out of Wichita, Kansas. I am also a consultant for Midwifery Business Consultation. I have been working with them for about actually a little bit over a year now. I've had the opportunity to work as a consultant for several midwives all over the United States, doing just a big variety of different things, and that has been really awesome. So what I plan to do is just talk, and if people come into the room, I'm going to let them in, and then once they come into the room, anybody who comes into the room can obviously ask questions. And if we don't have anybody coming in live today, then I will most definitely just be putting together the presentation, and then I will be recording it for future use. And those of you that want to watch it later, I know that we've had requests for people just recording so they can watch it another time. So that will definitely be available. So as people jump in, feel free to put questions or raise your hand if you have something specific to ask. And like I said, if we don't have anybody come in today, we'll have it available for recording for later. So to get started, I'll just talk a little bit more about what I do as a consultant, what are the services that we offer, what is the service line that Midwifery Business Consultation has available, and what are some of the things that people can take advantage of. I'm going to just say thanks to somebody. So I'll start out by telling a little bit about what MBC does. So we have a multitude of consultants on our team. I am one of them. My specialty is home birth and home birth co-ops, although that may encompass a lot of things: starting a midwifery business, growing a midwifery business, strategically making change in a midwifery business. But generally, my specialty is home birth. But we do have people on the team that have a variety of different skills, and many of those are related to a variety of different types of business. But one of the main things that we also do is advise people on starting birth centers, growing birth centers, and that sort of thing. And so the other thing that MBC offers that a lot of people take advantage of is our classes. The majority of the classes are surrounding the topic of business, but also administration, and also there are clinical type of classes as well, and you can find those on the Empowering Midwifery website. So when we do a proposal, when somebody reaches out to us and asks us, you know, about a discovery call and they want to learn more about what we do at MBC, we put together, well, first we kind of just get to know you. So if you reach out for a discovery call, that is anywhere from 15 minutes, 30 to even an hour to talk about what it is somebody might be looking for in the midwifery business and why they are reaching out to a consultant. And they're, you know, it's kind of like a meet and greet, honestly, that we do with our clients when they come in to find out more about midwifery. We sit down with them, we tell them, okay, this is what we do, this is how we do it, these are our team members, and we just give them this broad explanation about what midwifery is all about. And that's exactly what a discovery call is. A discovery call is you meeting with one of our team members, whether that is myself or Leslie or one of the other gals, and asking them questions about what they do, and then you informing them and telling them a little bit about what you're looking for, and just kind of seeing if it's a good fit between you two. And then after that, whoever you meet with will send a proposal to you. And in that proposal, we will offer different types of services that we think would be beneficial. It might just be that you need a consultant and you want to meet with a consultant for a couple of appointments. And it might be that you need some classes on learning how to start a home birth practice. There's so many things in our service line that we offer that we will put together a proposal that we think is going to best suit you. We usually put more than one proposal together because everybody has a different budget. So maybe you have a lower budget and that first proposal is going to be maybe really affordable, might just have a few pieces in the service line. The next one is going to maybe be something a little bit more moderate, and then the other one is going to be obviously at the higher price point, offering a lot more services. And then it's just kind of up to you to choose the proposal that you want and find the one that is going to be in your budget, and then we go forward from there. As far as payment goes, we accept Zelle, we accept PayPal. You can also send us a check. We're pretty easy that way. As far as paying it off, we even take payment plans. And for those of you that are like the type that make really quick decisions, then you know, you can get a discount. If you let us know, like within 7 days, we have an up to, I think it's a 15% discount. If you make a decision quickly, then we'll discount that whole package for you. But I know many of you are wondering more about like home birth and the home birth topics of creating a co-op, or just the different types of packages that you can put together. Well, not packages, that's probably not the right word for it, but just the different type of group midwifery models might be a better way to describe it. And so I want to go over what those different types of group midwifery practices can look like. I want to talk about all of the different ones, talk about some pros and cons to having one over the other. There's really no right way to create a group midwifery practice, and there are more than one model. And I think it's just finding what is the absolute best model for you based on your resources, based on what the other members in your midwifery group are looking for, or the people that you're hoping to team up with. But I want to talk about those different models, like I said, the pros and cons to those different models, and then we'll get into more refining that process down to the co-op, because I feel like the people that have reached out about this topic are mostly interested in the co-op. And so I'm going to start out by first talking about the partnership. So a partnership is what a lot of midwives actually have, and many of them have it structured in some different ways. But typically in a partnership, you're going to be working with one other midwife, and that person is going to be equally financially invested into the practice, and they are going to benefit from the profitability of the practice as well. So in other words, they're going to start out with you, and they're going to put whatever money into the practice that you need to put in. You're both going to be equal partners. Now you can have unequal partners as well, but I would say by and large, most people choose to create something that is equal. So say you're going to buy a building, or you're going to buy equipment. You're both going to be paying for that equipment. You're both going to be paying for that building, or whatever those things are that you need to purchase in order to start your practice. And then in the end, if there are more expenses, or say you have a month where you don't make any money, or you go in the hole, maybe you had more expenses than what you collected, so maybe you're in the hole $10,000 that month. Both people are going to have to contribute $5,000 each in order to get you out of the hole. Whereas maybe you have a really great month, you have a whole bunch of clients, and maybe you're up $10,000. So then you both decide, okay, so what do we want to do with that $10,000? Do we want to each take our 5? Do we want to have a certain amount that we're setting aside for our emergency fund? But you're basically going to work off of the budget, and you're both going to be equally invested, whether the business does well or whether it doesn't do well. And that would be one of the main ways that you can create an actual business partnership. Another way is a co-op. And a co-op, Leslie kind of coined this term after she heard about what myself and my group had created. And I don't know, we didn't really have a name for it. We just, I don't know, we just called ourselves a group. But I like the co-op because there is a sharing of resources. And I think that's important because there's so many things that we can help each other with, and we can share expenses. And that's really helpful, as well as, you know, helping carry the burden for doing the work that is involved in having a group practice and sharing call or doing prenatals for each other, or just having like that sister midwife in your group that you can call and talk things over with, and that is like kind of has the same philosophy and is kind of in it to win it the same way you are. And so with the co-op model, this particular model generally has one midwife who is, for lack of a better terms, and if you're listening to this, I will say I'm using quotations, an owner. So somebody who is completely financially invested. They're the ones that sign the contract for the lease on the building or to purchase the building. They're the ones who are on the electric bill. They're on the phone bill. They are technically the one who, I use the term loosely, but they're kind of in charge. They're the leader of the group, and they are the ones that are financially on the line for everything that needs to be paid, whether that's buying equipment or whether that's buying office supplies. That one particular person pays for that. The way that it works when you're sharing expenses in a co-op is that particular owner of the practice will come up with a budget, and you really definitely have to be very serious about your budgets in all of these models. In fact, that is one of the most specific things that we work with midwives in doing, is helping them create a budget, because if you don't have a budget, you have no idea how much money you need, how much money you're making. And I find that midwives are really intimidated with budgets, and sometimes they don't even really know how to create one. So we have a form, we go through it, we help them. And just like when I do meet and greets, I go off on rabbit holes. So I'm on a rabbit hole here. But basically, coming back to the midwifery co-op, what you do then is that the owner midwife is going to have a budget. They're going to see, okay, what are these, you know, there's two different costs. There's the type of costs, and I always like to keep things dumbed down with my words and talk about doing things in baby steps, instead of using big terms about business. But basically, you have costs that are always the same, and then you have costs that sometimes fluctuate depending on the amount of work that you're doing. So you have your budget put together, and everybody that is part of the co-op, whether that's one midwife, whether that's two midwives, 3, 4, in our group right now, you know, we have 5 midwives. And so basically everybody is bringing in their own clientele. That's the way it works in our group. We do alternate, like maybe one midwife has, you know, her max of 3 or 5 or whatever, however many births she wants to do. So she's not available. So if somebody calls, then they would go to the next midwife or to the next midwife. But basically everybody kind of is invested in that they can take as many or as few clients as they want to. Obviously, you don't want somebody in the co-op that doesn't want to work. So obviously everybody is going to be sort of well vested into the commitment of working. And so they will call, they can choose their midwife, or they don't have to, you know, it can just go to whoever they're referred to or whoever isn't busy that month. And then they will go about doing the work. They will be basically, like in our group, the primary midwife for that particular client. And their job will be to follow that midwife or that client throughout their prenatal care, their labor, their delivery, their postpartum care, and their newborn care, with keeping in mind that the other midwives in the group are equally committed to helping take call for her or covering prenatals for her. And you can create different schedules. We have forms for call schedules and different things that we can share with you if that's something you're needing or wanting to look into. But basically then what happens is that client pays for their care, whatever you charge, and you've figured that out based on your budget and how much the owner is going to need to cover their expenses, and then how much, what are some of the other things that need to be paid for. And so you will come up with a percentage, and that percentage, whatever that may be, I'll just use 50-50 right now, for example. So maybe the midwife is in a 50-50 co-op. And I'm not saying that's necessarily right or wrong, because everybody has different expenses and different amounts that they charge. And so if you do 50-50, then the client pays into the business, and that business then does some sort of accounting type of thing where they see how much that a particular midwife, let's say midwife A, brought in, and then the next month they get paid their 50%, and then the other 50% is kept inside the practice to pay for the expenses, which, like I said, may be the rent or the electricity or the supplies. The owner often will take some sort of salary for managing the business, and then she may also have her own midwifery clientele. The point of the co-op is that basically it limits the amount of expectations of the majority of the midwives in the group, except for the owner. They don't have to run a business. And what I find often as I'm talking to midwives around the country, most of them are thrilled with being a midwife and they love being a midwife. What they don't love is running a business. They don't love, filing all of these things that need to be filed. And they don't love, being the one responsible when the phone breaks down and they have to go get another one. Or they don't want to always be paying an electric bill for a building when sometimes they take 3 months off out of the year. So if you own your own practice and you want to take time off and you're in a co-op, if you don't work, you don't pay anything. So you don't pay rent. You don't pay for that phone. You don't pay that electricity. Whoever the owner is has to pay all of those things. So if you don't work, you don't pay. If you do work, you do pay. So there's a lot of advantages to that if you are somebody who really appreciates just mostly being the midwife and not having to deal with all the nuances of managing people and managing all of the details of, there's just a lot of little things that go into running a business. And obviously most of you probably already know that if you're in a current business. And so there's things you don't have to do when you're running a co-op if you're just one of the co-op partners versus the owner. And so when we talk in consultations, I usually go through a lot of those things in more detail so that you can see all of the pros and cons, and then you can have discussions with the other midwives in your area or in your group to see if this is a model that, everybody wants to participate in. The other model would be more just you starting a business and you paying another midwife a salary. And so that person then would make the same amount no matter what. They would be required to work a certain amount of hours and make themselves available for, whatever is involved in having a quote job. But their job is to work for the other midwife. And they don't have to hold any responsibility if, they aren't meeting, if the financial needs of the business aren't being met. They're also not benefiting if the financial needs of or not the financial needs, but if the business is making money, they obviously are not necessarily benefiting from that. So if you are an owner and you have an employee, obviously that is not going to be like a contract labor situation like it would be in a co-op. but it would be more like they're your employee. You may offer them benefits. You can also do that in a co-op. Like, for example, in our co-op, everybody can get their vitamins at cost, and everybody can get their labs at cost, those sorts of things. And you can offer benefits no matter what your model is. But if you are an employer-employee type of situation, obviously there's going to be an increased amount of employee taxes in that situation. The pros of that and the cons of that are kind of a variety of things. I personally think when you have an employee, the biggest con is that an employee always wants to work the least amount possible and make the most amount possible. They're not financially invested in the business doing well. And so they, of course, want to work, but for them, they make the same amount of money, whether there's 3 births or whether there's 10 births. And so their motivation to be part of marketing and bringing in business may not be as invested and may not be as strong as the co-op model, where if you work more, you make more. And so those are just a couple of different models and the ways that businesses can, be structured for a home birth practice. And what's nice is that you can always really change from one thing to another. And maybe you start out and you have a partnership, but one person is like, I'm going to have a baby, I'm not going to be working for several months, or I have a health problem. You could always adjust that to more of a co-op model. You could adjust it more to they're an employee or they're a contract person that you're going to just pay per service. So maybe they cover the day for prenatal and you pay them a certain amount. And in our co-op, I'll just give you an example. In our co-op, we do have the percentage, but we also pay each other for specific things that we might do for each other. So for example, if I am at a birth or I am going to be out of town, I can ask my co-op partner midwives, I shouldn't use the word partner, but I can ask my co-op midwives, hey, would you cover the day of prenatals? And we have a fee schedule that we follow for paying each other. So if a particular midwife covers the day for me, then I'm going to pay her a specific amount. You could do it so that you all already have a specific schedule, so that one person does 1 week and somebody else does another week and somebody else does another week, and you just work the equal amount of hours, but you still make your percentage or whatever. There's a multitude of ways that you can structure the co-op, but I find that this is really a way that works best for us. We also have a lot of the same goals when it comes to, our family time and being able to have the freedom to take off when we want to. So for example, I'm off tonight for my middle schooler's graduation, and I have one midwife taking call for one person, and I have another midwife taking call for another person. And so what's nice is if you can get a group of at least, I think the co-op works best whether it's 2 people or 3 people. But obviously, if you have a larger group, it's great if you can have 4, because then you can have 2 sets of a full team if you like to take 2 midwives to a birth. But you can also add in birth assistants, and they can be paid, separately. They can be paid by the midwife. They can be paid by the co-op. There's so many ways of structuring the co-op business to help everybody feel like they are benefiting in a way that is financially beneficial, but also emotionally and socially amazing for them in their own personal life. And it also takes the burden off of somebody who doesn't really want to start and run a full-on business. And I feel like that is the majority of midwives. The majority of midwives are not business oriented. And to be frankly honest, I wouldn't consider myself really business oriented. I did do a lot of business things prior to coming into midwifery. So I had a skill set there. I was the administrative assistant and ran my husband's chiropractic business. And so I had a lot of skills when it came to insurance and scheduling employees and a lot of hiring and firing type of skills and that sort of thing. So if you have those skills or you're interested in developing those skills or even just you think you can learn them and the idea of running a business really appeals to you, then I would totally recommend starting like a midwifery co-op and offering all of the things that you can bring to the table to somebody who either can't because maybe they have young children, maybe they're just trying to retire and work a little bit, or maybe they just don't even have any type of interest in running a business. And so I think the co-op model is amazing. I think other models can work, and I do have a decent amount of clients that I do work with that have more of the partnership or the employee model. And it just kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you want to do and how you want to do it. But part of the MBC's, consultation work that we do is really helping you discover what is, some basic things to your business. What is your mission? What is your vision? Do you need financing? Do you need to get a loan? So you need to learn how and or prepare a really detailed business plan. Those are all things that go into creating a business or growing a business. And so our job as consultants is to kind of help you weed through, okay, how do I write a mission and vision statement? Or how do I make a business plan? Or is the co-op model going to be good for me? Or is the partner model going to be better for me? Or do I really want to just hire somebody because I have a specific person that is looking for a specific job and this seems to be the best way to go? The benefits of hiring a consultant are really are endless. I could just tell you a little bit about some of the different things that I've gotten to participate with and have been able to help different people learn how to do business stuff. I think of one midwife particularly early on, and she was somebody who was a nurse midwife. She was starting her own business. She had worked in a hospital, and so she'd never run her own business before. She didn't know really even the first thing about running her own business, and she didn't know anything about insurance. And so one of my jobs was to meet with her on, I think we did weekly or maybe every couple of weeks, and we would talk about she would just de-identify her paperwork, her verification of benefits, her explanation of benefits, and we would go through those explanation of benefits so that she could understand what those explanations meant. Like, there's like so many columns for those of you that, do insurance. It can be very detailed and very difficult. But she had no idea, like, okay, what is this column saying? What is this column saying? What is this? How much can I bill? Can I bill that? She really didn't know the first thing about insurance and what she could and couldn't do and how to go about that, and even like how to create a billing system. And so every week I would meet with her and we would review either the verification of benefits. So that's the one that, tells us what kind of benefits people have and what their deductible and what their copay. And, we talked about a lot of those big words, like what are those big words and what do they mean, and how to understand those on the VOB. And then we would just go, like explanation by explanation, and I would talk her through those, and she would just take a lot of notes. And then she was able to kind of start getting the hang of it and start to understand how it worked. And it took several meetings, but she eventually just kind of, figured out, oh, okay, I got it. She started getting it and was able to just jump back in and take care of it herself. And really, that was all she needed from us. She didn't need anything else. She already had figured out a lot of the other things. I imagine at some point I'm going to be meeting with her again as she tries to add some other people to her team. And I think she was kind of thinking about the co-op model. So I'm sure I'll meet with her again and we'll just talk about the things that are of interest to her. We have had people who, are maybe in a certain specific practice, and then they decide to start their own practice. And oftentimes I would say when we are working with people who are doing that, there's a decent amount of kind of like urgent calls to take care of helping them navigate some of the complications that come when we're separating from another practice. And so sometimes there's these urgent calls that we're saying, maybe somebody and another practice did something like bill for something that they didn't do. And so the other midwife is trying to figure out how do they navigate that? How do they communicate the transition? Who do they need to notify? How do they notify them? How do they navigate some of the HIPAA things involved with that? And so that gal, we just met with her and started helping her come out of the other practice and come into the other practice, the new one that she was creating, how to work with the building that she was moving into, the employees that she was hiring, how to put together a hiring manual and like an employee manual. And so we had this, we have these human resource tools that are amazing. We have whole human resource books that have all of the policies already put together. So like maybe you have a policy about using your phone during work hours, or maybe you have a policy about sick days or vacation days, or maybe you have a policy about tattoos, or whatever it might be. We have those already in place. And so when somebody comes along that's starting a new business, especially if they're hoping to build it and make a fairly large business, they need things like human resource tools already at their disposal, and it can just save them a lot of time if they just purchase that booklet from us. And so that is something that we have done, is help people with establish their human resource policies. We have done a lot of coming alongside midwives who, and I think this is something that is really a prevalent issue among midwives, is that they don't have protocols and policies about all of the different things. And they need to get those things written down. They need to get those things personalized. Those need to be reviewed every couple of years to make sure that those policies and procedures are the way that you are currently practicing. And I think, like, from my standpoint, one of my very favorite things that MBC has done very well is to create those. I have been part of the team that's created some of those. And I will tell you, it takes hours upon hours to create just one policy on, say, intrapartum fever, or, newborn thermoregulation, or GBS, or the multitude of things. Like, we all know pretty much what we do in certain situations. Somebody comes back with, they don't pass their oral glucose tolerance test. But my question is, do you have that written down? Do you have that in an actual policy, so that when you bring other team members on, you guys can work together in black and white, and you can say like, oh, hey, this is what I do, this is what I do, and this is what's written down, and this is what the expectation of both people are. Because anytime you're in a home birth practice and you are working together with other midwives, one of the most important things that you need to do is to establish those guidelines, because you don't want one person who is like, oh, we don't do anything about the blood pressure unless it's, 150 over 100. And the other one is like, oh, we risk out at 2 with over 140 over 90. And I'm not here to judge anybody what they do or how they do it, but I think it's really important that the midwives that you work with, that you are really both committed, especially in a co-op or a partnership, or even in, especially even in the employee situation, that you're all in agreement about how you're going to do things. And so when it comes to MBC, that is probably my very favorite thing, is that we can literally just hand over to you. I think we've got close to maybe 200 templates on policies and procedures. And so that is something that you can totally benefit from when you reach out to us. And that's one of the things that you can purchase from us, and that you might really benefit from. But so that's something else that a lot of our clients have in the end ended up benefiting from and asking us for when they hired us as their consultant, is they just buy those policies and procedures, and then they can just review all of those, and they can personalize them on their own letterhead or however they want to do it. We even can personalize for you at an added cost. And so you can have those policies already just put into practice for yourself. And so, like I said, we have the policies, the procedures, we have the human resources. For those of you that might be interested in birth centers, and I'm getting a little bit off track, we have lists of like, what are all the things you're going to need for your birth center, and how do you get licensed? How do you get certified by AABC? So a lot of those things are things that our team can help midwives do. Maybe you're a home birth midwife and you're thinking about opening a birth center. I mean, we would love to help with that. Kind of looking at reviewing my list here. Yeah, so moving on with kind of the topics of conversation. What we normally do when we first meet with somebody on their first appointment is that we kind of just go through that first meeting by asking you a lot of questions. We try to determine what your goals are, what your mission is. And then the second meeting usually is kind of preparing and putting together a strategic plan for all of the things that we need to start moving forward on that need to be done. So for example, sometimes I talk to people about maybe they are a sole proprietorship and they're paying a lot of taxes. So we start talking about what needs to be done to become a sub corporation-S, and what are the benefits of doing that, and how do you go about doing that. And so sometimes we can do even the legwork of the research and say, okay, this is where you need to go to this website, you need to do these specific things. We often will get our clients connected to people in the United States that already have skills at working with midwives and understand midwifery business. Like, I'm regularly referring my consultant clients to an appropriate CPA, to somebody who will help them do long-term financial planning. People that we know love midwives and love to work with them and understand them and have a passion for that. Those are the people we love to work with, and we have a lot of great resources for doing those sorts of things, and a lot of people that we're connected to that we can refer you to. So some of the topics besides the mission and vision and business plan is we can talk about marketing. Sometimes people's businesses aren't as busy as they want them to be, or they want to. One of Leslie's favorite things to talk about, and one of the things that I've really learned from her, is trying to narrow down what is the specific kind of client that you want to work with. Who are you looking for? Who are you wired to take care of? And who are you wired to go on the journey of pregnancy and birth and postpartum with? And not only trying to figure that out, but how do you bring in that particular type of client? So you're not spinning your wheels, taking care of the type of client that really just, you're not best for them and they're not best for you. And so we can put together marketing plans. We actually have a whole separate business that will do a lot of the marketing for you, and very affordable. And the reason that Leslie created that was because we were always like, this person really needs actual help with a marketing company. They need somebody that understands midwifery and really can put together a great marketing plan. And Leslie finally kind of just got fed up with the fact that she didn't have the right resource for midwives when it came to marketing. So she does what Leslie always does best. And if it's not out there, she's going to find a way to create it. She's going to find a way to make it happen. So that's what she did. She created a marketing company for midwives. And so that's one of the topics that we can review and talk to you about when you are doing your consulting stuff. Financial planning, I think risk management is a big part of what we do. And so when I use the words risk management, oftentimes midwives are like looking at me like a deer. So they have no clue really what that topic is, what it means, and how to navigate it. And so we talk a lot about that. What are the things? Well, the protocols, the guidelines, that's one thing, is that if you are not mitigating risk by following the guidelines that you know you're going to be judged by if something goes wrong and you have a problem with a mom or a baby and you can't define what your protocol or what your plan or your guideline was in any particular situation, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting yourself at risk for losing your practice, for being sued. And I mean, most importantly, you know, having a broken heart and really having to struggle with your decisions because you hadn't decided ahead of time what to do and how to do it. And so the other part of risk management is also like wealth accumulation, wealth distribution. So in other words, long-term financial planning. And what I mean by that is, you know, having disability insurance, learning how to invest so that when you're ready to retire or when something happens with your health, that you have a good financial backup plan. And the only way that that can actually really work well is if you are working with somebody that knows how to do that well and can help you take some steps even prior to working on that piece, getting a budget and figuring out how much do I need to work, how much do I need to charge, because I need enough money to do A, B, C, D. Oftentimes we're just bringing in money. Half the time we don't even know where it's going. And the thing that I see often that kind of breaks my heart is I see midwives who are accumulating wealth because we do make money. I mean, most of the time midwives are making a good living, but half the time they're not even paying themselves because they don't know what they can pay themselves. And they don't even know how much they could be paying, you know, having an assistant, because they just don't have it all down in black and white. And so again, that's also part of building these stair steps to creating a really solid business structure. And in the long run, you know, one of the end game pieces is understanding what can we do as we accumulate wealth to protect that, and how can we grow that. So that's one of the big topics. We talk about operational systems. So we talk about day-to-day operations of the clinic or the birth center or the practice. We talk about patient intake. We talk about hiring staff. How do we go about that? We talk about problem solving when things aren't going well inside of the birth center or inside of the practice. Like, where are things breaking down at? And what kind of operational systems can we put into place to make things go smoother and to go better? I also find that, like, as we are talking about those topics, one of my jobs is to really be an encourager. And I love to use the term midwifing the midwife, because midwives need someone like us to help us grow and to help us, like we help them formulate a birth plan. We need another midwife to help us formulate a plan for what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and to take these little steps of checking in on things. So the way that we meet with our client for prenatals, we talk about diet and exercise, and we talk about sleep. And then we bump into a conversation that we're like, oh, what could be going on there? And we dig deeper into that, and we are able to use our midwifery skill and intuition to go, oh, hey, that sounds like you might be anemic. Let's check on that. Or it sounds like we need to increase the amount of protein that you're eating. Or you are super stressed. How can we, come alongside you and help you manage that? And that's what a consultant does. We have these consultations, but they're just like a prenatal. And we review each one of these topics. And sometimes we dig into one topic more than another. And sometimes we just have a meeting with our consultant and we're upset and we're crying about something that has happened or isn't going well. And so the consultant can just serve as somebody who is objective. They're not in your own community. There's somebody that can just help you navigate whatever it is that you're going through. So operational systems, let me see, I know here. And then, of course, there are some other things that we can go through. I'm going to go ahead and just list those off. I only have a few minutes left, but professional development is one of them. Time management. How are we managing the amount of time that we are in the business versus, at home, or spending time in those priority relationships with our spouse or our significant other or our children, or just with our own time. We can talk about creating strong habits. If we need to grow in leadership skills, that's definitely something we can talk about. Negotiations, resolving conflicts. It's not unusual for me to be in a consultation with somebody and be talking with a midwife about how to resolve a conflict with a client, or maybe she's finding out like in over her head with somebody who's maybe risking out, or you can just tell maybe isn't going to pay, and those kinds of things. So I love talking about those topics and helping midwives formulate words and formulate just inner strength to deal with hard, complicated situations like resolving conflict. Encouraging midwives to be a continual learner and helping them create value in and of themselves. Creating ancillary services and passive income streams. I love to do that. And I tell I bet it is true of most of my clients. If they were to put a review, I bet that the majority of my MBC clients would tell you that I was able to help them create passive income that not only paid for every penny of what they paid me for my services and for our MBC tools or classes, but that is also going to continue to provide passive income to them for as long as they practice. And so that is one of my favorite things to do. And I often do that right off of the bat because I want my clients to feel like they have gotten an incredible value. And so I will help them create passive income streams that will just be bringing money into the practice and they don't have to work for that. I think we talked about reducing risk with the policies, but also doing training, support teams, talking about including improvements to birth assistant training, how to do that, what to do with that, continuing education. One of the things that we know a lot about are just all of the resources that are available out there for midwives to gain those continual education hours that they need to stay certified. Preventing midwifery burnout is a topic that we have a video series on that we've heard a lot of great reviews about. I find that there are so many midwives that are burnt out. It sounds like from what we're hearing that a lot of midwives burn out around 5 to 6 years. And that is really, really sad. And I think part of it is because a lot of these things that need to be in place to create a solid business structure are not in place because midwives, like, we're wired to be midwives. We're wired to take care of women. We're wired to go to births. We're not wired to create budgets and financial plans and all of these other things that give our business a foundation and stability. And so when we're putting everything into humans that we take care of, we often are not putting the resources and the time and the energy into preventing burnout and into creating solid business structures. So that is one of the things we talk about too. Just helping midwives do things that will help them to avoid being burnt out. Hiring staff, doing job postings and interviews and creating contracts. We review agreements. So we love to look at midwives' handouts. Maybe it's a diet handout, maybe it's agreements or contracts like financial contracts. We can help them write those. We already even have those. We can give you samples of that you are welcome to tweak and use and change. So if you are a new midwife, I would say like that is one of the things that you can benefit greatly from, is just buying our packaged forms, because those are then already done. And then all you have to do is tweak that and personalize that in a way that you want to. But we have so many great forms. Yeah, your consents, your collaboration agreements, helping you with hiring out experts for business support contracts, letting you know when you need somebody that is, you need a lawyer for something. What kind of lawyer do you need? What's the specific situation that you're in? If you are considering retiring within the next 5 years, we talk about creating a plan for selling your practice, talking about making sure that you have everything, like I said, funds in place for long-term financial planning. Yeah, I think that is overall a very big picture of all of the things that a consultant can do for you. And I absolutely would love to meet with you and to walk alongside a path if you are wanting to start a midwifery practice, or if you are wanting to grow your practice and you're wanting to create a co-op. I can definitely help you create the structure for that. I can help you create a contract for that. I can show you and talk to you about all of the things that should be included in that, all of the things that you're bringing to the table, what your expectations of the other midwives would be, and then helping you to negotiate with the other midwives your policies and procedures, and how you're going to go about paying them, and how you're going to go about really anything and everything that you want to create with a co-op. It's probably something I have done, or I am doing, or I can find out how to do. And so I'm just going to close this by saying that I'm so thankful to be in a position to not only serve women as a midwife, but to serve other midwives and to just come alongside them and encourage them in creating or growing or getting ready for retirement. Even like I'm kind of getting ready to go down that road myself in the next 5 to 10 years. So I would love to work with you. Feel free to jump on our website, on the Midwifery Business Consultation website, and schedule a discovery call. And if you don't find a time on that calendar that works, definitely just feel free to reach out to me via email, or a private message on one of the social media places would work as well. And thank you all so much for joining us on this question and answer series about midwifery and home birth and creating co-op. Have a great day.